My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system, which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence, that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only, and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity. Theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft. It is currently Sunday, May 18, 2025. It's Sunday morning. It's 11:33 a.m. And what you will observe on the Google Drive, first of all, are the images of what is the evidence of surveillance by the government, where the government does not have any warrant or probable cause or constitutional basis whatsoever, as it currently stands under the state and federal constitutions, to engage in what is surveillance. And surveillance is evident with the impossible light activity that fills the apartment of Tracy Banks, which is relevant to the venue, not a private property, which is an apartment building recognized as the real property of AVANATH Capital Management, Woodside Senior Apartments, in the city of Ontario and the state of California. Within San Bernardino County is where that's situated. And this sun that you see over this apartment building is the same light source that is remaining as the Ontario Police Department demonstrated until after 5:40 p.m., where the Ontario Police, that is the city of Ontario, is engaging in what is criminal surveillance. That is, again, also posing the highest threat by stalking and engaging in surveillance by the criminal misuse of resources that are ordinarily given to the government to engage in what is law and order, to serve and protect, not surveil, harass, terrorize, and psychologically torture, like the Ontario Police Department is documented engaging in for a prolonged period of time, which they are so mentally deranged and delusional that they are not only engaging in what is specific knowledge about that documentation, fully exposing them in plain view, that they are stalking, and that they are stalking in a very specific manner pursuant to monitoring, but they continuously do so even in the face of that evidence. And that's also what I want to document. You'll see the images of what is ongoing gang stalking while This apartment is evident of that. And while I capture that, that's exposing the people of the state who are gang stalking. And the entity that is the people of the state, any American citizen that is engaging in what is surveillance with the government, they will be subject to federal prison, where you're providing what is an unlawful means of aiding the government, facilitating the government that's acting in furtherance of trying to murder and criminally defame in order to ultimately murder an American citizen whom that government is targeting in violation of both constitutional and human rights. As I open the front door after capturing the impossible light that's on the ceiling, on the patio blinds, that's underneath the covered patio structure, outside of the patio glass doors, and piercing through the peephole of the front door, framing the front door along the ceiling and on the east living room wall, appearing on the inside of the apartment. That means coming underneath the front door into the door entrance on the floor beneath me on the ground. And then I capture that fake sun above my head. That's where the city of Ontario's gang stalking as a citywide operation, which is evident through the amplified sound of what is planes, which I'm experiencing, I'm perceiving while I capture the images, the evidence of surveillance. So I want to document that. That is prefacing what I'm documenting. The entity that is still engaging in criminal surveillance with corrupt police departments. This entity, which is the state of California, where the police are stalking you, the state is stalking you. Where the state is monitoring you, where the police are monitoring you, the state is monitoring you. And monitoring is that which is done amongst the population in order that it is happening at all places and at all times, not only through the criminal misuse of government resources that the government is not telling the American people that is being used to violate your privacy, but it is that which is executed in a demonic means as well with regard to the demon-possessed who are monitoring. Monitoring is demonic activity. And the government has no constitutional right. It doesn't exist on the books to engage in what is practicing satanic means of targeting people so that you can falsely depict their character while you're engaging with it is psychologically torturing them. And that is evident also in the environment, where things such as the sun sits over one building in particular, like I document at one address, not leaving that address from sunrise until sunset, from 10:54 until, let's say, 5:45 p.m., like I documented the Ontario police gang stalking, which is the documentation to prosecute the state of California. Now, what I have is more than just one day of that. I have years of evidence of that. And to be subject to it on an ongoing basis is the documentation, which is also relevant to those same police departments stealing the evidence of it. That is getting to a whole other basis for federal prison for gang stalking cops. Okay, so the entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct, and the following evidence that I want to discuss is that which was stolen by the entity that is gang stalking is the entity that is engaging in surveillance. The entity that is gang stalking and engaging in surveillance is the entity that steals the evidence, demonstrating, showing, exposing that they're gang stalking and surveilling, and it's the one that's also responsible when it's stolen. So the entity is engaging in, for example, stealing the candy bar from, except gang stalking and furtherance of murder and kidnapping is a lot more atrocious than stealing a candy bar from your neighborhood market. Both are crimes, not advocating either, but recognize the difference between the two. The entities engaging in what is inhumane and unconstitutional and highly malicious, where the government is engaging in public corruption. The latter is what is causing harms, what is a violation of the law, and what is inappropriate. But it is speaking to much lesser harm to the public, to the morale of American citizens, to literally the structure of American government and the morale of those that are in this country. So they're not the same, but they are equally violations of the law. But there's an extraordinarily different engagement in criminal conduct when the entity is monitoring and then also stealing evidence of it. So the entity is gang stalking. I want to be clear. Like my evidence, the P.O.C has already demonstrated. And not only is the entity proven to be gang stalking, so that the entity failed in seeking to falsely depict me as one that's just hallucinating. Nobody's gang stalking her. She's hallucinating. She's making it up. She's paranoid. That's the pattern of conduct, by the way. It's called criminal defamation, where the demon possessed are projecting their mental illness onto another whom they are very much obsessed with, whom they are very much targeting. It is literally the admission of the demons who are engaging in that pattern of conduct. And you also know that outside of the evidence of the P.O.C, because it's entirely inhumane and unnatural to react to evidence, not just baseless accusations where you don't have anything to support what you're stating. It is inhumane and unnatural. It's not a natural reaction of somebody that's objectively listening to the concerns of another person, that's speaking to being threatened, speaking to being harassed, speaking to being targeted, being terrorized, like the ordinary targeted individual would, but you have evidence to support that, and the entity is relying on absolute just disregard for facts and just stating, oh, you're crazy. That's the long and short form for what the demon possessed do. The demon possessed were never prepared for evidence to prove that they're both demons and that they're gang stalking. They are stalking as a population who knows very well the very specific individual who was a threat to those demons and who is a threat to exposing criminal conduct that they engage in as a society. And so that's the purpose for, and that's also the ammunition, the motivation behind a bunch of strangers stalking someone. And that is fully provable that a bunch of strangers are stalking one person, namely through impossible light activity filling an apartment in a manner that's irreconcilable, inexplicable inside of the building. And then it's also inexplicable to have the sun over that building all day long. It's also further inexplicable when that same light activity is present, even when the sun is not seen over the building. When that same pattern of inexplicable light is surrounding even at nightfall. And then you're getting into the whole behavioral pattern of the people who resort to criminal defamation. But remember, the entity that is very highly illogical, lacking in dealing in facts, dealing in illusions. That's what the demon possessed do. That's the whole purpose of the specific environment. They don't deal well with facts, and they never plan for facts to surround them. So the entity only has the resort of criminal defamation, but that doesn't work with evidence speaking to the pattern of conduct. So criminal defamation flies in the face of what is hard facts and a body of consistent evidence. And when the entity fails at criminally defaming me, the entity engages in what is theft of that evidence. But I want to be clear, theft of evidence, a body of evidence, also is unsuccessful in creating the illusion of mental illness. It is evidence to the contrary that the entity is indeed engaged in surveillance, and also engaged in what that meaning surveillance speaking to, you know, that you were documented, and you know that that documentation is proving that you're a stalker and that you're a demon, and every other adjective that goes along with gang stalking, that you're a sex offender, that you're a psychopath, all right, that you're a demon-possessed one. The entity is engaging in theft of property to protect gang-stalking police officers who are serial killers, who are engaged in public corruption, who are paid to engage in systematic terrorism, as we are conditioned in this country to participate in, as the people of the state are. So we, as in, I have nothing in common with the demon-possessed person, but we are alike in that we are in this country protected by what is the Constitution, and we are not engaging in the same benefits where the entity is engaging in that pattern of conduct. You have stepped out of that protection of the Constitution and into the shoes of the state, where you'll be prosecuted accordingly. And that malice is what you are focused on. Somebody that is wanting to maintain a position substantially similar to the target individual who does have privacy, when you are being targeted by the state, and the people of the state are violating that privacy at that facilitating venue, where they are the government in disguise, essentially. The government in disguise in that specific environment, the government in disguise that is stalking with the same behavioral pattern in that same specific environment. So the entity engaged in theft in order to protect another demon-possessed police department, a demon-possessed police officer, specifically the Fontana Police Department. And this is documentation relevant to that. And it's also relevant that I am to date still subject to this pattern of conduct that the Fontana Police Department are engaged in, and seeking to protect the life of a gang stalker, a demon, a criminal, somebody that is violating the law, somebody that is violating the rights of American citizens and sacrificing mine, while I am merely enforcing my constitutional rights, which remain intact because I don't gang stalk anybody. The entities engaged in this pattern of conduct in furtherance of murder and kidnapping, and that is always at the forefront of your mind. So I just want to point something out. The comprehensive tactics of demons and the demons are the ones who are engaging in what is targeting, stealing, defaming, and monitoring. That's what the demons are doing. And there's a comprehensive effort in doing so. Number one, through removal of my evidence by the entity that's acting via online platforms, including places like YouTube. YouTube is a venue. Surveillance is underway on the venue of the internet. And I have documented a plethora of ways where I'm being targeted online, including on that platform. And it's intentional because surveillance is underway on the internet, which the demons who are stealing my intellectual property, which is also evidence to prosecute and expose them, they demonstrate and prove that. They corroborate that. But the entity is engaging in surveillance, and this is a means of the tactics of the entity that are engaging in what is obstruction of justice. Number two, theft of my evidence, which is also intellectual property, which nobody has a right to steal. And gang stalking someone in order to steal their intellectual property is equally a violation of copyright infringement, trademark violations, etc. It's not going to be protected because you gang stalk someone and steal their intellectual property, steal their ideas, create businesses, and engage in all manner of artistic creations and whatnot. When you've stolen those ideas from a targeted individual, and these are the egregious acts that movie producers engage in, all sorts of fraudulent demons that are on social media, getting attention, and when they have stolen it, company ideas. This is what demons do in this country. It's not protected by under copyright law, and I'm going to enforce my rights under that. Also because it's a very specific body of evidence and a very specific brand of intellectual property that the entity has engaged in what is stealing and trying to duplicate, which it's impossible to duplicate because they can't even explain it. And if they do, it's only insofar as when they were sitting around monitoring and studying me. But upon prolonged examination, they are not able, because it comes from one person with a very specific fingerprint, and that is mine. All right. The entity is engaging in what is criminal. Number three, criminal acts of kidnapping by an entity seeking to obstruct justice. So the entity is engaging in obstruction of justice by merely trying to keep me confined and kidnapped in order to also silence me, to oppress me, and keep me in a state where I cannot expose what they are doing. And what they're doing to me is what they've done to other people. They being the entity that is a bunch of demons who are engaged in targeting amongst what is their surveillance state, which is ongoing in this country. The entity is engaging in what is criminal defamation. The entity is engaging in kidnapping upon criminal defamation, but criminal defamation is serving any ordinary unemployed demon on the street that engages in merely name calling because you're documenting the fact that they're stalking you and you have the evidence to prove that. Merely name calling does not render that documentation illegitimate. It's only the ill-equipped and woefully unprepared demons who lack the intellectual artillery to respond to facts. And the demon possessed Satan only knows how to engage in what is speaking word curses, and legally that's referred to as what is defamation. And why is it defamation specifically? You're going to legally analyze the criminal conduct of the entity that's monitoring. Monitoring is speaking to what is automatically published. So you're talking about what you're speaking while you're monitoring me is defamatory, and it's serving the criminal purpose of the entity that also engages in using that defamatory speech to not only harass me while you're monitoring me, they also use it when they engage in criminal summoning. And all the demons do is agree that the target individual has committed something. And then the demons that are gang stalking you wearing badges, like the Fontana Police Department, engage in what is kidnapping. And that's also why gang stalking police officers go to federal prison. But nonetheless, criminal defamation is another tactic. And also, this is all underway while the entity is ceaselessly gang stalking, which the demon possessed at Woodside Senior Apartments are providing the ongoing necessary evidence, speaking to the inexplicable harms, the incalculable harms relevant to psychological torture, relevant to being targeted by the government, even if you have committed a crime and you're subject to an investigation, psychological torture is not an investigation. Psychological torture and gang stalking is not a legitimate means of law enforcement or government functions at all. It is under all circumstances intolerable and inhumane, contrary to how these gang stalking law enforcement agencies want to appear in the public. And that's why gang stalking police officers are interested in stealing my intellectual property, which is also evidence. All right. And the entity that's stealing evidence, that's exposing police officers, I'm going to circle back and make sure I specifically identify that department and also that demon in particular, because that's relevant to federal prison. The more that you engage in trying to obstruct justice, the more intense that prosecution, that punishment is going to be. And why? Because the entity is engaging in waging a balance. It's either going to be my life or their reputation, and it's not going to be my life. So the inevitable consequences that you're going to suffer the consequences for engaging in what is some extreme means of theft, intellectual property theft, merely to conceal the fact that you're engaged in Satanism while you're engaged in public corruption. You want to engage in it, but then you just don't want it to be exposed when you find out you targeted the person that has the ability to expose you. And I'm also pretty good with words, and I can clearly articulate why you deserve what's coming for you. The entity is engaged in this pattern of conduct and is doing so with full knowledge that it's been documented. And the fact that evidence regarding gang stalking police officers has been stolen is also evidence that they are psychopaths who are gang stalking while they look to the left and the right like they're oblivious about my presence. But you're not ignorant about the behavior of psychopaths who are engaged in gang stalking. That's the P.O.C. Because the fake sun is over my head while the Fontana Police Department is gang stalking me. So this is what I want to make sure is understood. So additional evidence regarding gang stalking via law enforcement agencies who then steal the evidence to conceal their identities and criminal engagement in what is Satanism, criminal surveillance. That's what's relevant to what it is that I'm exposing. So the following evidence of Fontana police officers stalking me and then being protected via theft of my intellectual property, which is evidence of surveillance as alleged. This is the purpose of the entity both stealing my property to conceal their identities, but they engaged in what is the inhumane act of domestic terrorism, psychological torture, the police being at every corner when you're walking from the library to the bus stop and the police are meeting you at every corner. And it is very specific to me. You're meeting me while the fake sun's remaining over me as I walk from the library to the bus stop. You're doing so while you're flying over my head in helicopters as I walk from the library to the bus stop. And at every intersection, the demon-possessed gang stalking police department, these police officers who are stalking one person with a population in that specific environment where they're also sex offenders touching all over my body with light that's manifesting out of nowhere and flying in the air because these sex offenders want to touch me while they're stalking me from intersection to intersection while I'm going from one place to another. You want to engage in it, participate in it. You just don't want your face to be shown. You just don't want to be identified. That sort of cowardice is what literally disgusts me. All right. And this is what the purpose of exposing it. But it's also because, understand, this is not just me sitting on a soapbox and just engaging in what is just freedom of speech, just willy nilly. It is freedom of speech. It is crucial. That is important. I do have a right to do that. It is pertaining to facts, not just talking about the best wig to buy next weekend for the booty popping contest at the club in downtown LA. I'm not talking about nonsense. I'm talking about issues that are relevant to American citizens, and freedom of speech is crucial to that, yes. But this is greater than that. This is why more evidence that the gang stalking police in California are proving is requiring federal prison. You just saw the Ontario Police Department engage in domestic terrorism in Plainview, and they're not the first police department to do that. And knowing that I'm capturing it on video, that sort of audacity, while they're taking an oath and bearing weapons and bearing badges and being given authority, unfettered authority from my position, unfettered discretion, which needs to be adjusted, especially in light of federal group stalking and monitoring. And they're doing that on video and then also stealing my intellectual property, which is also evidence to prove it. They're engaging in conduct that's unprecedented, that's never been spoken of. Everybody's either too scared to speak on it or they're a part of the problem. And you're also part of the problem when you're too scared to speak on it. The entity is engaged in this P.O.C. with a level of impunity that requires federal prison for the gang stalkers who the evidence that is stolen is serving to protect. So what it is that I am speaking of is regarding so the following evidence of obstruction by the Fontana Police Department is relevant to this demon that's representing law enforcement, that's in video, and the relevance is regarding the evidence that's captured 2 years later. So on a specific day at a specific time in 2022, I'm capturing the Fontana Police Department gang stalking me. And that's the purpose of capturing that specific environment where you're looking at law enforcement right in front of my face in that specific environment, in conformity to a pattern of conduct, not just driving by me. And that's the, that's it for the, no, they're engaged in a pattern of being everywhere I turn. They're there while I'm documenting the supernatural. The sun is remaining over me from sunrise until sunset, even when I go from city to city, not like these baboons who are sitting in one apartment building at one apartment complex in one city. And I don't go anywhere and it's remaining over the apartment building. That's the same pattern of conduct. The pattern of conduct is also underway when you see me going from city to city, and that fake sun's remaining over me specifically as I go from city to city, which is not the natural environment either. And by the way, the two don't coexist. It's not both remaining over me while I'm en route to a different city, traveling all day long. And I'm also sitting at one apartment building, documenting the idle non-movement of the fake sun. The two are not happening in the natural environment ever. It's mutually exclusive, and it's also that which I use to juxtapose the recognition of stalking by a corrupt government that's doing so in concert with the people of the state, but I hone in on the gang stalking police. Those are the same ones that engage in kidnapping, not lawful arrests. Those are the same ones that engage in what is manufacturing criminal charges, and you haven't committed any crime. This is the entity that's engaging in what is criminally defaming you when you suffer no mental illness whatsoever. At all. Not at all. All right, that's the significance of it, and that is what is revealed when I'm capturing video in 2024, 2 years later, on the same day, at the same time, and I'm in two different regions. Fontana, California, at Sierra and Arrow Avenue, is not the same location, nowhere near, and not going to share the sky space, and is not perfectly aligned with being in front of me for me to capture it like I did between 2022 on the same day, April 9, 2022 and April 9, 2024 at 6:38 p.m., the same exact time. That's capturing the POC. Excuse me, 6:39 p.m. That's capturing the POC, and the video evidence that I'm capturing this, and I'm going into an extensive analysis showing you the gang stalking police, who are in particular the same entity: the Los Angeles Police Department, the Ontario Police Department, the Fontana Police Department, the San Bernardino Police Department. They are the same entity. Okay, it's the state of California. And also, it's impossible that in the specific environment, they're engaging in the same behavioral pattern, particularly stalking me, harassing me, terrorizing me, using helicopters, because I've documented every single last one of those departments engaging in just that. The entity stealing my evidence is the entity serving to protect corrupt police officers who are disqualified and unfit, not only because of their criminal conduct, but also because of criminal acts of obstruction and stealing evidence that also happens to be engaging in what is revealing the fact that they're engaged in the pattern of conduct. That's an act of obstruction of justice by that specific entity. And it's also not coincidentally happening when it's relevant to what is exposing the demon possessed, who are disqualified also on that basis, when you're recognizing the mental illness that's closeted by those of that condition who are engaging in this satanic pattern of conduct. That's where the demonism, it becomes relevant, legally relevant, because the government's abiding by this code of conduct, which is demonic, in order to create the illusion of mental illness suffered by those who are being targeted, and they suffer no mental illness whatsoever. It's a pattern of conduct. All right. So that's what's relevant. And I am documenting this. And this is the significance of capturing. And this is the video that you're going to listen to as I am engaged in that POC. And that's I'm going to capture a screen recording and include it on the podcast. And you're also going to listen to it on this podcast. All right. This is POC. The videos, by the way, that are captured, the timestamps, the video that is captured that was stolen, I documented as stolen on the POC channel, because everything that is stolen is documentation against the entity, and the evidence that I have is evidence against the entity, and the entity will be prosecuted also for criminal acts of obstruction of justice, which are irreversible acts of obstruction, which, again, gang stalkers such as Jason Isaac Fields, a corrupt government actor, still monitoring me to date. In real time, a psychopath, a delusional one that is unapologetic for stealing evidence from me, unapologetic in engaging in what is psychological torture, and is still engaging in the corrupt acts of gang stalking, and is also delusional with regard to ever having any professional or personal engagement with me whatsoever, outside of me enforcing my rights under the law to prosecute this psychopath. And the evidence of theft of my intellectual property is further supporting what is going to be federal law to bar this person from ever coming in contact with me. This is somebody that has engaged in what is theft of my intellectual property, has engaged in what is seeking to profit from theft of my intellectual property, has conspired against me, engaging in what is facilitating repeated kidnappings that I'm subject to while I'm being gang stalked, theft of my intellectual property while I'm also being targeted. My evidence is being suppressed on the venue of the internet. All of this is the simultaneous acts of seeking to suppress my identity and what it is that I'm subject to as I capture it in documentation, which the entity is both hostile to and also is stealing to obstruct what is your ability to identify the pattern of conduct and those engaging in it, but also wanting to merely just conceal the criminal system that they're engaging in. And specific government actors, gang stalkers like Jason Isaac Fields, are those who will never, under my enforcement of my rights, ever come into contact with me. And any agency that is affiliated with Jason Isaac Fields who's stolen my intellectual property have done me no favor. They've done me no favor in doing so. They're not engaged in any sort of provision of justice. They are engaging in what is satanic conduct to date, and that is an organization that I would never have any affiliation with either. And it's important that I publicly document all of this because the entity is engaged in what is ongoing monitoring, which is spiritually occurring. And they're also engaged in what is ongoing obsessive acts seeking to obstruct justice. So I make everything public for a reason because number one, I don't have any secrets. And number two, I don't particularly like cowards who want to engage in conduct that nobody else knows about and want to conceal that part, but they want you, the public, to look at them in a certain manner while they target people like me, want to steal my ideas, my property, and convey the notion, the fraudulent notion that it's theirs. And also, while they're whole demons, they're whole psychopaths and sex offenders, they're criminals, they're perverts, and they don't want that to be known either. They're literally the demon possessed, and they don't want to be associated with Satan now. But I want to be clear, we're coming into a time where it's going to be more and more acceptable. Those that are going to be openly acknowledging Satan and their allegiance to Satan, which is speaking to what the entity is doing now, a whole gang stalking population, they are in allegiance to Satan. They're just not openly communicating that. And that's yet. They're not openly communicating that yet. Right. But they are doing it right in your face in ways in which you have not identified, but they're doing it all the time. The entity is under all circumstances, a lot of demonic themes, a lot of means of exposing demonic association, but it's things that you are oblivious to, such as being monitored even by those that you're following on social media, being on the platforms, and you're being monitored and you're ignorant to it. You're participating in it. You are in many ways contributing to it. And that's just by virtue of just being on the internet. And I'm talking to those who are Bible believing Christ followers. And just because you have an online platform, you might not be aware of everything that's entailed in that. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking with regard to being a demon that's monitoring people and being a demon that's trying to spread misinformation and deceit, which is what is Satan's purpose. But you are participating in a demonic agenda, and that part you might not be aware of. And that's because the entity is engaged in what is monitoring. It's occurring on the internet. You are putting your private information out there, which has again been promoted as something. Oh yeah, you should all do this. You should all get a social media platform and tell all your visitors, tell where you're at, give out your coordinates, tell everybody who you're hanging out with, tell everyone your deepest thoughts, what your aspirations are. You're being monitored, you're being studied, and also you're also under surveillance. So there's a lot of things that you're not aware that you're participating in. And that's the part that I want to make sure that you're informed about in order that you would exercise wisdom. That's all I'm stating. But aside from that, this is documentation that I'm going to capture in a screen recording. It's going to be published on the P.O.C. website. It's exposing video documentation, and the timestamp of the video in particular that is stolen is identified through what is a smaller excerpt from the video, because I took an excerpt from the larger video that's 12 minutes long in order to capture the impossible light activity. And so that's why it's going to be in a screen recording, because the video purpose, which you can hear me give that analysis, you can hear me describing what was stolen, but the light activity is what is so probative about it. And that's why I'm doing a screen recording as opposed to just like I ordinarily do, just put the video and not necessarily a screen recording video. But this is documentation regarding the fake sun, regarding the impossible light activity inside of my apartment. And it's directly referring to video evidence acknowledging gang stalking by the Fontana Police Department, who are stalking, targeting, proven through the fake sun that's over me at the same intersection in Fontana where it's present in the morning. And I'm documenting this Fontana Police Department. And I'm documenting that Fontana Police Department when I'm in LA and the Los Angeles Police Department is gang stalking, while the hallmark of what is the fake sun remains over me from sunrise until sunset. And this is what's happening in Ontario from sunrise until sunset. And the Ontario Police Department is gang stalking. The entity is engaging that when I go from Ontario, the entity is stealing my vehicle. And then the next night, the entity is engaging what is flying over my head, stalking me by the San Bernardino Police Department. They're engaging what is targeting. I've committed no crime such that they can state, well, you know, we're following this particular person around, which you would know because of my evidence, but they don't even have any basis to say, why are they flying over me and following me around in helicopters? There's no investigation of me. The entity engages what is making up information, lying about my character, asserting that they're investigating me. No. That's the entity. That's manufacturing information. That's an admission to targeting me, because I've never committed any crime. So that's the entity that's engaging in what is gang stalking, and all the means whereby law enforcement agencies are engaged in gang stalking, targeting, criminal surveillance, in other words. They are engaged in what is, they're being exposed while they engage in the identical behavioral pattern in that specific environment, and then they have the audacity to steal the evidence. I don't care what county I'm in, what state I'm in, where the entity is stealing the evidence that's exposing police departments or a police officer, that police officer is going to be prosecuted for engaging in obstruction of justice. So the entity is acting as one, and the entity that's acting as one, you will be prosecuted while that police officer is gang stalking me as an entity. They call themselves looking out for each other. You're not acting as an individual, you're acting as an entity, and the entity stole evidence seeking to protect a demon-possessed gang stalking police officer that represents a corrupt law enforcement agency that is heavily documented, targeting me for years. All right. And that is, again, this video documentation is captured on April 9th, 2024. And it is the timestamp of 1839:02. But I do have evidence of it. And I'm also referring to it in the video that I am going to do a screen recording of. And then I also have so much evidence. I'm going to capture what is the significance of the video in the first place that was stolen. That the sun is remaining in perfect alignment with me, as it's there at the same property from sunrise until sunset. And at 6:39 p.m., essentially a week later, I'm getting the same video documentation. It's just that I'm in the parking lot as opposed to being in my room. The parking lot, which is my room, and the parking lot at the same property. So it's equally impossible. And that is impossible that the Fontana Police Department are standing under the fake sun that is at the same time in alignment to me in Los Angeles. Okay, so that's same time of year, same time of day analysis in order to break that down for you when you're understanding and proving how you know that the police are stalking me specifically. All right, so this is the relevance to that, and I will include that in the following video. P.O.C. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes, and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C., and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state. And it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. All right, it is currently Sunday, May 18th, 2025. It's 12:13 p.m. And this is a screen recording in order to capture what is evidence of intellectual property theft that has been committed by the entity. And this is intellectual property theft. And I want to be clear, intellectual property theft is equally unlawful and a violation of copyright laws and the spirit of by which such laws are created in order to protect the rights of content creators of anything that you create, which is your property, your intellectual property, including when it is evidence to expose unprecedented criminal activity by a corrupt public entity that is requiring publishing evidence, which is also intellectual property that is legally relevant and what is an inevitable federal prosecution. The entity is engaged in what is theft of property that is speaking to that which is in many ways unprecedented, not only based on the criminal conduct, but it's unprecedented with regard to proving that conduct that the public entity is engaging in. And it is done for the purpose of corruption, for purposes of obstruction of justice. All right. And so this is exposing, again, corrupt police departments who are engaged in the pattern of conduct, the criminal activity, and then the cowards seek to conceal their identity. And this is relevant regarding why my evidence is being stolen. And it is evidence that is exposing corrupt police departments who are very much aware that they're being documented, engaging in the pattern of conduct, which is exposing, remember, demon-possessed people who represent the government, who are engaging in surveillance, gang stalking, monitoring. And it's identifiable in an environment that is supernatural, as I have referred to it as the specific environment. And so that's the purpose of this documentation that I'm capturing today. So I'm going to start with the video evidence that is stolen, and it is in fact stolen. It's regarding April 9th, 2024. So, with regard, this is relevant to what's going on to date in 2025. What's going on with regard to the environment in 2024, in April of 2024, is relevant to what is time of year analysis as well as time of day. But time of year analysis is what is at play when I'm in May of 2025, still subject to the pattern of conduct which you're recognizing in the specific environment, and it is relevant to what I am documenting even on this day in 2024, April 9th. And you can use this evidence to prosecute the entity as you are understanding the environment that is supernatural, and this is even relevant to prosecuting the entity for gang stalking me to date, which I'm still documenting the pattern of conduct as I am ceaselessly subject to it. But the entity is engaged in the P.O.C, and this is a full day of documentation that I captured on April 9th, 2025. And upon reviewing my evidence, which is pursuant to what is an ongoing investigation, an investigation that is relying on what is capturing the evidence and publishing the evidence online, where the government is corrupt, the corrupt court where you will not receive redress for your grievances, where in fact the courts are engaged in the criminal pattern of conduct, which is inherent to what is obstruction of justice. That is kidnapping you, securing your kidnapping, kidnapping via criminal defamation, which I've documented the courts engaging in, and they do it under the fake sun and engineered light with the entity, even gang stalking by helicopter. I've documented every angle of it, both the civil and the criminal courts. The entity is engaging in what is requiring publishing evidence online, where you will not be vulnerable to what is copyright violation, infringement, theft of your intellectual property, because the corrupt government is necessitating publishing that content, which is also evidence to prove that they're engaging in the criminal conduct in the first place. And then you will also not steal it to conceal your identity. You want to be a coward engaging in gang stalking, where you're going to be prosecuted under your fake sun amongst your impossible light activity, and specifically identifying you and that department that is gang stalking along with you, because they're not acting as individuals. So this video documentation is what I'm capturing on April 9, 2024 at 6:39 p.m. in 2 seconds. And this video is a snippet of the full-length video that is, you can see, is absent. This video is only 48 seconds, capturing the impossible light activity that's happening inside of my bedroom. I will review it here. But the full-length video is what is missing inside of, and it's stolen from my Google Drive. This is a repository of evidence. And on the full day of documentation, from sunrise until sunset, the entity, this is where the video evidence is stolen, and it is a full-length video with the same exact timestamp. The _1 is a reference to the snippet. This is the snippet of merely the light activity, which I captured in order to create a video honing in on the supernatural character of all of the light that's touching over everything, as I'm exposing to you what is the specific environment. It's not the sun that I'm showing you is remaining over me all day long. It's the indicator regarding who is being targeted and who is targeting me. I'm being targeted and the police are targeting me. The entity is doing so in that specific environment, and I'm capturing this video on April 9, 2024 inside of my bedroom, and it is relevant to gang stalking that's underway by the Fontana Police Department, in video that's captured on the same day at the same time in Fontana, California. And this is video evidence that I will also review. All right, so I'm going to start with the video that is captured on this day, where I'm starting inside of my apartment at sunrise, and this is where the fake sun is rising in my apartment, in alignment to my apartment.
It is currently 7:15 on Tuesday, April 9th, 2024. Excuse me.
I just want to be clear, this is the documentation regarding my evidence of where I'm located inside of my apartment, and this is always relevant. This is why I include these details, so you know where I'm at, the ecological address, all of the details regarding even the scientific impossibility regarding what the entity is doing and the environment that the entity is doing it in, which is recognizing stalking that's committed as an entity, as a community, as a statewide effort in concert with a population that is corrupt. It is exposing public corruption. So that's what I wanted to go into. I'm going to go ahead and continue that.
It is currently 7:15 on Tuesday, April 9th, 2024. Excuse me, I wanted to say 2022 because I've been referencing the same date in 2022. But it is indeed April 9th, 2024, and it's currently 7:15 in the morning. And what I want to juxtapose this ongoing admission. This is criminal presence. This is the state that's maintaining constructive presence inside of the private space. And also, as you'll see, the specific environment surrounds outside on the property of Alvarado Gardens and beyond. This is a government that's engaging in criminal surveillance in concert with the people of the state. And it coexists with what is the unnatural environment. And this engineered light is touching all over the grounds. That is the maintenance of that specific environment by the state that's engaging in surveillance in concert with the people of the state, and it is occurring, it is present. This is maintenance of what is criminal presence of a target individual, an American citizen subject to surveillance, in other words, in the absence of any warrant or probable cause, which is exactly what the government needs in order to place you under surveillance, in order to engage in what is federal group stalking and monitoring. But I want to be clear, there is no constitutional basis to engage in. There is no lawful grounds whereby the government in the United States can place an American, a so-called free citizen, an American citizen, under surveillance.
And that's what I'm speaking to with regard to gang stalking by law enforcement, who must have some sort of constitutional basis to invade your privacy, to follow you around from place to place. And the knowledge of that, the ability to show that, is in that specific environment. So in the specific environment, this is, again, the illusion of that's not sunlight under any circumstances. And there's a body of evidence regarding the entity maintaining the specific environment in my apartment. So I want to show, this is my apartment, the same apartment that I'm inside of, at 7 p.m. and at 6:38 p.m. when I'm showing the fake sun. And that's the same video that I will juxtapose with on April 16th, where I have evidence of the same exact conditions pursuant to the entity that stole the evidence showing the fake sun on April 9th. So this is the sunrise in alignment to me inside of the same apartment.
At 7:15 in the morning, and I remain at 320 West G Street in Ontario, California, specifically at the intersection of G Street and Fern, where a wealth of documentation has been captured, by the way. Waking up on many days and the light source is hovering over 630 Fern Avenue,
All right, so that's a long, lengthy video. I just want to show this is how April 9th begins. And just going through that, understand that the evidence of the specific environment is defying what the entity is doing in a specific environment in 2022 on the same day at the same time. There's no provision for the sunrise to occur in alignment to my apartment when I am in Fontana, California, and I am on the same day in Los Angeles in 2024. On the same day, I'm documenting the entity keeping the fake sun over me, and the people of the state are engaged in what is gang stalking as I'm capturing the maintenance of an environment at 8:39 a.m. I'm in my office at this time in Los Angeles on the same day, and the entity kept the fake sun. This is the purpose of what I'm documenting. The entity is keeping the fake sun all day long from sunrise. I'm at work all day long. Keep watching, you're looking at what is the fake sun over me all day long, while the LAPD and the people of the state are engaging in targeting me, which is evident through that environment that defies nature. And it's also defying nature when I'm showing you the maintenance of that environment, which is supernatural, as you're juxtaposing two different regions, specifically over me in LA. At one venue, Alvarado Gardens, where I live and work from sunrise until sunset. And then also in San Bernardino County, I'm going from Ontario on this day into what is Fontana, where I'm documenting the Fontana Police Department gang stalking me at 6 in the evening. This is what I'm going to go over. This is speaking to what is absolutely impossible. It's absurd with regard to what the entity is doing and how you're able to clearly identify it. So my video documentation that I captured on this day, which is deleted, is relevant to proving that the Fontana police officer, that the Fontana Police Department, that the state of California is gang stalking me, and also seeking to criminally defame my character in doing so, even through the ineffective method, and also a means of that's a concession. You're stealing my evidence. You're admitting that you're targeting me. You're admitting that you're engaging in surveillance as well. You know that I'm documenting you. And while they try to act like they're not paying attention to you and they don't know you and you're hallucinating, no, you know exactly what I'm documenting while you're engaging in surveillance via communication devices and on the internet. And you go to the extent to steal, first of all, property of another, and also steal evidence against you. Evidence that you know that you're captured in, and you know that you're not doing anything innocent, nor you're not doing anything ignorantly or coincidentally. The entity is engaging in this significant criminal conduct. And so that's what I want to go into. I wanted to show you the sunrise. This is where the entity kept the fake sun all day long. And now I want to go and focus on what is the documentation that will expound upon what was stolen, and that is the following video. So I'm going to go ahead and play this because I'm discussing the video, and then I'm going to go into this video right here. When it references it, I'm going to show you the video that I referenced. I'm going to show you video evidence, which is also a short video that's showing the same exact impossible light activity, because there is a pattern of conduct, and where I have the video, the entity engaging in the pattern of conduct in one video, I have a plethora of evidence showing the same consistent pattern of conduct, and it is equally supernatural. Okay, so that's what I'm going to go through, and that's what we're going to watch now.
This is LAPD. You're going to remember that dynamic light that's moving across my wall in my bedroom. Tina Ree's going to federal prison. This is called impunity. They're in the specific environment, and this is demonic pacing around the property while LAPD is flying over, amplifying helicopter activity in what is engineered light. There is no sun that's going to be setting 11 hours later at the same property. Okay? This is ongoing systematic facilitation while they're engaging in what is, by them, I mean LAPD is amplifying helicopter activity. Okay, I want to, that's crossing path. The entity is, and that's monitoring with LAPD. Like I said, the ease with which the entity is engaging in what is the sex offense, monitoring somebody in the private space. The ease with which the entity is engaging in terrorism. You saw the dynamic directed light that was moving, and then the demons are just driving by and walking all around, walking with minor children, engaging in that federal offense in concert with them. I want you to see how the glowing light disappears all over. It's never occurring naturally anyway. You have what is the entity that covered all of the grounds with what is engineered light. None of that is naturally occurring light. The sun is present for next. Okay, and in addition, at 6:38 p.m., the light source is setting in Fontana, California, as a matter of documentation, where the entity is engaging in the hallmark of stalking me in that phenomenal environment by helicopter. Okay, it is currently 7:04 p.m. I just wanted to document that, and I want to make sure that you understand the significance of what I captured. The video that I captured, and I mentioned it was at about 9. The previous video at 6:38 p.m. That's the timestamp at what is crossing path. And these are demons that know when my panties are down. The directed light that you saw in the previous video, they all know what I'm doing, what I'm speaking to. I was talking about the Fontana Lewis Library, the engineered light. The engineer light on my ceiling, it was moving around. The engineer light on my kitchen ceiling today. Immediately as I'm talking about that, you saw engineer light in motion in my bedroom, okay, in that previous video. And I want to be clear, that's the same exact light activity that is occurring while universal waste is present in the dark, okay, stalking me, being a sex offender, monitoring and targeting with amplified audible activity, listening to me when I'm asleep, engaging in what is waking me up when I'm asleep, and then pacing all around in engineer light, while engineer light, just like you saw in the amber color light with the pattern of the blinds, while I was talking about engineer light, not coincidentally coexisting with what I'm talking about, that's exactly what universal waste engages in. And that's exactly what Carlos Amata Keene engaged in when I told you I was in my room getting dressed. This is several weeks ago, and he is crossing path, parking in the spot that's maintaining relevant positioning while I'm in my bedroom getting dressed, and the engineer light is what I spoke of. That's that light activity that you saw. That's exactly what they are engaging in together. And
okay, so I want to show you that light activity that I am referring to. It is the video that is indeed deleted. This video is occurring inside of my bedroom. This is the address, and this is the short video. This is an excerpt from the 12-minute video that I'm referring to. It's captured on April 9th, 2024 at 6:39 p.m. in my bedroom, where I'm capturing the light source that is in alignment to me in the same apartment where I captured the sunrise. That's where the entity is being prosecuted. The Fontana Police Department is being prosecuted and exposed for a demon, for being engaged in the public corruption of what is engaging in the demonic system of federal group stalking, monitoring, gang stalking, being demons who are stalking me as a whole police operation. Okay, this is the significance of that video that was deleted, and this is the short video that I'm referring to.
Conduct, okay? That's what the Fontana Police Department was doing, which represents the state of California. That's what the Los Angeles Police Department is doing, representing the state of California, and doing it in the specific environment. And doing it in addition, you see inside of the Fontana Lewis Library, that engineered light in the depths of that computer lab, while a third-party group stalker is making noise using that white table that she was carrying, engaging what is harassment as an entity. This is what the people of the state are doing while they're monitoring me while I'm inside of my apartment. And I show you iterations of the P.O.C, such as engineered light that is glowing on my ceiling, and it's moving around in real time. The entity that is, like you saw inside of my kitchen this morning, the engineer light that's appearing, here you go right here. I want you to see that that's engineer light that's in motion. I'm glad that they do that because they're going to federal prison. All right, the entity is providing an ongoing
so let me try that again.
This harassment as an entity. This is what the people of the state are doing while they're monitoring me while I'm inside of my apartment. And I show you iterations of the P.O.C. such as engineer light that is glowing on my ceiling and it's moving around in real time. The entity that is, like you saw inside of my kitchen this morning, the engineer light that's appearing. Here you go right here. I want you to see that. That's engineer light that's in motion. I'm glad that they do that because they're going to federal prison. All right. The entity is providing an ongoing narrative with regard.
All right. So that's the video that is deleted. That's stolen evidence, that's stolen intellectual property, and that's a federal offense, okay? This is an ongoing federal investigation. Regardless of the corrupt government's disdain for appreciating that, they will regret that in federal court. Okay, the entity that's engaged in in public corruption is requiring an American citizen to take justice into their own hands, not by vigilante justice, but by conducting my own investigation and producing a body of evidence proving public corruption and proving criminal monitoring, criminal stalking by the government. That's then also stealing the evidence. This is not only relevant to intellectual property theft, but is also relevant to what is a criminal interference with an ongoing investigation regarding a federal case for terrorism, domestic terrorism by the government, a prosecution of the government that's interfering with that investigation where that case is against itself. This is an unprecedented level of corruption that I'm exposing. Now, with regard to this light activity in this excerpt of this video, I have another example of it in case you weren't able to see it very clearly. And it is referred to here. This is the related content. This is the value of YouTube's platform when it is operating in the way that it's designed. This is the purpose of it. I want to point this out.
Okay.
Hold on one second. This video right here, this is engineer light right here. That's supposed to be, that's the evidence of the fake sun. It's not evidence of sunlight because the sun doesn't create this light activity. But this is showing the entity that's keeping the fake sun in alignment with my window. And this dynamic engineer light in this video, where it's moving across my walls, it's happening with simultaneity to my talking about it. That's terrorism. That's the entity that's monitoring. That's the entity that's keeping you under surveillance. That's the entity that is engaged in what is invasion of privacy while they are stalking with impossible light activity, stalking with amplified audible activity like I document. These are the elements of monitoring, and it's satanic also. But it's going to be prosecuted as psychological torture in federal courts. All right, the entity is engaged in this, and there's another example of the same light activity that's captured in this video in a more vibrant manner. The light is more vibrant, so you can see it here.
Not make a majority. You are equally inferior serving Satan. Okay? And you will never win. Pay attention to that impossible light activity while the demons exhibit hostility. Never is that ever naturally happening, just like you saw yesterday with the flashing of light. There is no question with regard to the demon-possessed who are engaged in criminal monitoring. It's directly relevant to, while you're looking at real-time movement, that's the demon possession of the Los Angeles Police Department. And this government, this people, are communicating to the world the threat that they are. Yes, you implement an education requirement in order to get into law enforcement because of what is the real-time threat that American citizens are faced with when you are subject to what is now has changed the landscape. It is not a fallacy that the government is monitoring American citizens. It is not a fallacy that...
All right, I'm going to let you watch that light activity one more time, and then we'll go back to the video regarding 7:03 and 24 seconds as it's referring to my video that was 12 minutes long. And then I'm going to show you the video that it is relevant to, as I do videos juxtaposing the specific environment in two different regions. I do this all the time. When I'm in I'm in Orange County at the Best Western at the entrance at 11 o'clock in the morning, the sun is not going to be at the same time of year, daylight savings time. Even outside of daylight savings time, when you're only giving or taking an hour, that is not going to reconcile the sun being over Woodside Senior Apartments, not only at the same time, but before that same time and after that same time for the duration of the day. That's called the specific environment. That's how you're recognizing being targeted, which the environment is probative of. Okay, so I want you to see this light activity one more time so you can see the evidence of demons who are stalking, the evidence of monitoring, gang stalking.
Not make a majority. You are equally inferior serving Satan. Okay? And you will never win. Pay attention to that impossible light activity while the demons exhibit hostility. Never is that ever naturally happening, just like you saw yesterday with the flashing of light. There is no question with regard to the demon-possessed who are engaged in criminal monitoring. It's directly relevant to, while you're looking at real-time movement, that's the demon possession of the Los Angeles Police Department. And this government, this people, are communicating to the world the threat that they are. Yes, you implement an education requirement in order to get into law enforcement because of what is the real-time threat that American citizens are faced with when you are subject to what is now has changed the landscape. It is not a fallacy that the government is monitoring American citizens. It is.
All right, and that light activity, by the way, is directly relevant to the entity stalking via police departments. When you see them sitting casually right on my camera in their vehicles, when you see them flying over my head in helicopter, I mean, this light activity that you see, this creepy light activity, it's directly probative of their mind state. It's directly probative of their condition. They're demons. And don't forget about that when I'm documenting the fake sun in the presence of law enforcement who are stalking. They're demons doing so. And they are aware of that they've been documented while they look to the left and the right. You can look whatever direction you want. You don't have to look at me while I'm documenting you. You don't have to look. That's not relevant. You're capturing them gang stalking. The entity is engaging in a malicious pattern of conduct. So be mindful of that light activity when you're taking a second look at these gang stalking police departments and understanding what is at work there. And it's closeted mental illness.
LAPD.
I'm sorry. Let's resume the video where I was at here.
Or if it's a demon driving a commercial vehicle, such as Universal Waste. Specifically, that Latino male who I got a close-up image of, he's going to federal prison. That's mental examinations, and you're talking about a federal offense that is going on his criminal record as a violent sex offender, engaging in the sex offense with a public entity, on behalf of a public entity. And this is exactly what Carlos Martinez, that light activity that you saw in that previous video, and what I wanted to speak to while I'm capturing LAPD sounding helicopter activity, listening to the whole dissertation that I just gave at 6:38 p.m. while the light source is remaining over building 1818, prosecuting, by the way, everybody on the hillside whose address I uploaded and took images of their houses, and it's well beyond who I documented. It's more than those addresses, but I got those all along Lobdell. I got this demon that's on I.I.S as well. While he's getting in his vehicle, that's fine. He's going to federal prison. He's a sex offender systematically monitoring me in concert with LAPD, who was just sounding helicopter activity, and he's literally across the street from Alvarado Gardens. Him and his wife, any minor children that he had, they're going to be removed, and he's going to federal prison. Okay, the entity had engineered light on his house, stalking in the path, and systematically engaged in a sex offense while the entity is living in relevant position across the street from Alvarado Gardens. So I want to be clear, while the entity is engaging in that pattern of conduct, this is speaking to the engineered environment. First of all, at 6:38 p.m. where I captured that, I took a snippet. I edited that video so that you don't have to watch the whole 12-minute video. If you don't, it's informative, okay? But if you don't want to watch the whole, I feel like long, and I took out the part of the video where you will see that engineered light. And so that's what, I'm not going to edit it or anything, but that's the significance of what you'll see. I'm going to just take out that snippet so you can see that light activity. It's the evidence of demon possession. It's the evidence of being surrounded by demons. It's absolutely impossible light activity. Under no circumstances, in other words, is that ever happening. Light does not ricochet off your vehicle when you're driving. Light does not ricochet and swipe all across the asphalt and sidewalks. Light does not shoot up like a laser through closed blinds and appear on walls. It also doesn't do it coincidentally while you happen to be in a conversation about a phenomenon such as directed light. It's not a coincidence. It's also not a coincidence in the environment where an entity is systematically stalking and engaging in terrorism and surveillance by helicopter. It's also, again, not happening, and it's not a coincidence, and it's not isolated, and it's also a part of what is an ongoing pattern, and something to not be forgotten when you're capturing the pattern of conduct by the people of the state who are living on the hillside, on the opposite side, where the sun is supposedly rising. And you're seeing them driving by 1826 Lobdell and engineered lights moving all across that gate. Let me be clear. It is more than just the addresses that I published, and I took a sample of all of those all up in. It's more than just this entire apartment complex. You're talking about, you see the light source that's rising. This is supposedly the sunset, and that's evidence against the people of the state. It's going to be a very, very far-reaching federal prosecution. Going to have a criminal record as engaging in what is federal stalking in violation of Title 18, and also being what is engaging in state surveillance. It's going to be a far-reaching prosecution, and that's a lot of people. Okay, you're talking about off of Brandon, Avalon, Lobdell, Effie, and much of that, I didn't even get all of it, but I'm just giving an example that it's way more than the people that I've documented. You're looking as far as that engineered light reaches, that's how far and even farther that federal prosecution is going to reach. And what incriminates them is the engineered light that you saw appear in my room. So I took out a snippet so you can see the light activity activity in case you don't want to listen to. But everything that I'm saying, I say it for a reason. I'm speaking to what you don't understand. I'm helping connect the dots. I'm speaking to what's an ongoing pattern. I'm speaking to what's not a coincidence in an entirely different region, not just the environment, but also the conduct, the hallmark of the entity following me and pursuing and terrorizing in helicopters, doing that in an entirely different region. That's exactly what LAPD is doing. That's not a coincidence. And it's impossible that I would be able to capture such phenomena, such hallmarks in two different locations. So anyway, it's currently 7:10 p.m. and I'm going to upload that video. It's a shorter video, so you can just see the light activity in case you don't want to sit through my verbose video that's like over 12 minutes long. It's just that I'm going through a lot of information in a short amount of time. I try to make my videos as short as possible, but there's a lot going on. There's a lot that I want to point out to you because I understand that there are things that are just going to not even be noticed. And if I don't speak to it, you're not going to recognize it. Perhaps you won't recognize it. Or if you do see it, you won't understand the significance of it. And so understand that's why I'm going through so many things. But if otherwise, I would just capture, look at this, look at that, and that will be the video, but you're not going to, you won't necessarily understand it. So that's why I do that, okay? I'm not just somebody that likes to hear my voice. And I'm not doing this because it's fun. It's not fun being monitored by the state, okay? But I do have to make sure that you're seeing, and I'm glad that the entity provides that. This is what I mean by delusional psychopaths. This is what I mean by, it's very dangerous, that level of psychosis. Okay, so understand, but it's good that they're not sophisticated criminals, that they are so foolish to provide such evidence. I don't have a wand. I can't create directed light like that at the whim like that. Okay, so while I'm talking about it, you saw that engineered light and it was the pattern of the blinds. The entity does the same thing. I took pictures when Universal Waste first engaged in terrorizing me like that in the dark. It was the same exact light activity, the same exact pattern, the same exact shape, everything that you saw in the video. It's just that the color was white. Okay, and it's because it was in the dark, and so the white light is what, and it was the exact same thing. And I was able to take a still image of it, and you saw that. And I'm going to prosecute Universal Waste with it. You're looking at, again, the identical pattern of conduct, the identical behavior, the identical phenomenon. And it's just a different face, a different person. Universal Waste versus what a third-party group stalker who's just driving their little Camry, okay, driving their Pinto, or driving their Jaguar, okay? Because it doesn't matter what their socioeconomic class is, they're demons. And they're obsessively stalking me. And they would like you to think that there's some difference between them, and there's not, all right? And the state is doing it through them in concert with them. And all of an entity, listen, is paying so close attention to everything that I say. And that's why you have it occurring, that light activity occurring at the same time that I'm talking about it. That's why you have LAPD flying over at the same time I'm talking about it. Okay, in an environment where the sun is present from the morning until the evening. So like I said, yes, I have already established the prosecution of the state of California. It is my desire to make sure that you thoroughly understand all of the aspects, because there are a lot of implications, especially there's a lot of stuff that's going on in the world, and it's disturbing. And the demon possessed there, it's very disturbing, this conduct with this light activity, and the demon possessed are very hostile because I'm telling you things that they don't want you to know. Okay, that's why I'm faced with that level of hostility. That's a demon exhibiting hostility while they're creating that light activity. But at the same time, this is a psychopath, okay? You're so psychotic. You are so enraged. You have so little self-control that you are telling your secrets, okay? I'm going to prosecute you with that. This is what Satan does over and over again. And when I'm referencing Satan, I'm speaking to the whole entity. Understand, Satan is using people. Satan is a spirit, okay? And this is what they're doing to themselves. This is what LAPD is doing over and over, and they're doing it to themselves. Those minions that were down the hillside, crossing path, that heavy-set third-party group stalker, she gets in her vehicle, and they show the directed light again. And then you have another one right behind her, even more directed light, in the gold Camry, okay? And then you have a third one in the black SUV, driving more directed light, okay? You have waste management, as I documented it. These demons, like, in other words, my point is that you have what is the lack of self-control. You have what is right now people who are of this condition, who are engaging in very serious criminal conduct in violation of people's human rights, unbeknownst to you. And exceedingly hostile to who you are as a person and the rights that you have in this country. And there's going to come a time when they're not going to try to conceal that animosity, that secret seething attitude towards you. They're not going to try to hide it anymore. Okay, so this is serving for what is, yes, I'm prosecuting and it's necessary. You also need to know, but it's also a matter of, like, literally you need to be aware about what's going on, because this condition, this demon possession, it is a threat to your safety. I'm not saying this because you need to be paranoid, especially those who are of the light. And that's all I'm gonna say. Those who are of the light, those who have an ear to hear, who have the eyes to see and can read between the lines, because I'm not here to preach to anyone. Okay, because, and I'm going to let you know why, because I'm acting as prosecutor and whistleblower, and I am using what is objective evidence, things that everybody can see. I'm not over here speaking in fables and in riddles, and we're over here pontificating. No, you're looking at things. You saw that directed light. Okay, so I'm not talking about something that you can't see. Okay, but yes, there is a spiritual aspect to this, and those that are of the light, you don't have anything to be fearful of. They're pursuing you. They're following you around. Okay, that's the spiritual stature that they maintain. They're under your feet. Literally, you're stalking me. Okay, but I want to be clear: a government that is doing that, you're going to prosecute that. You're going to put that entity, that demonic entity, in its place. Literally in the natural. Okay, so anyway, I just want to speak to that. I'm going to digress, but the light activity, I made us, how can I say, because I didn't edit it. I make it a point not to edit my videos. I don't even name them. I did add the addresses, though, when I do the comparison, because I want you to see the address to where it's at, what I documented for the day, and then I will add the address on to what is the timestamp that the video creates, the phone creates on its own. But I don't edit anything. It's raw footage, okay? And I do that on purpose. But what I did was I went in and I created a smaller video that'll just show you the light activity, so that you can see that in the event that you don't want to, or you just want to replay it again, you can get to the meat of that, because that's the juiciest part of that video, in my opinion. I want you to look at that supernatural conduct. That's what the demon possessed are doing when they're driving by in their vehicles. That's what they're doing. That's what's occurring inside of these venues that I have captured over years, them engaging in this wizardry, this demonic conduct, this light activity. And you're seeing it inside of places that you go to all the time: Starbucks, McDonald's. You shouldn't be eating that anyway, but if you do, McDonald's is monitoring American citizens, and they're a bunch of demons preparing your food. Okay, and they're monitoring you and monitoring on your communication device. You don't have any privacy. These demons are working in hospitals. They're working on your body. Okay, they're doing surgery. They're sitting on the bench and deciding matters that have to do with your rights, your property rights, your liberty rights. These are dangerous psychopaths that will not always conceal their animosity, their secret hatred for those that are of the light. And that's what federal group stalking and monitoring is. It is demonic activity, but it's criminal. You're able to criminalize it. It literally is the government that doesn't have a right to place you under surveillance. All right. So anyway, it's currently 7:17 p.m. and this is P.O.C.
All right, this video is referring to the video evidence that is indeed stolen, and that stolen video is 12 minutes long, and it has this time caption less the one. The one is referring to the fact that the original video has, what is this, 48-second excerpt that I took out for purposes of highlighting the light activity. So the video that is captured on April 9th, 2024 is analyzing the video that I captured on April 9th, 2022 at 6:38 p.m. where the Fontana Police Department is engaged in the targeting conduct, and this is the video capturing what is absolutely impossible. And I'll use the following video here, captured in Los Angeles at the same apartment complex. I'm in the parking lot at the same time, 6:39 p.m., 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 7 days later, same time of year and same time of day analysis applies. It's just that what I captured on the exact same day and the exact same time, this is revealing the entity that is paying very close attention to my evidence and is removing evidence that is highlighting their stalking conduct, their identities, both as criminals and as demons, and the entity is doing so while I capture very highly probative evidence. My screen recordings are captured for purposes of analysis. So it is even more relevant that the entity is stealing evidence that's analyzing their criminal conduct when you're supposed to just be looking at it in a vacuum, and what you see on the surface is just somebody in a police vehicle that is afforded all manner of unwarranted legitimacy by virtue of his identity, his or her identity as a police officer, and their presence in that environment, which is identified, categorized as what is public property, and under not talking to me, not addressing me, nor do you have to engage engage in targeting. Targeting is recognized in this environment. And so this is the significance of the entity stealing my evidence that is absent from the record. And it is absent from the record based on theft by this entity regarding what is analysis exposing this gang stalker, the Fontana Police Department, where the fake sun is in alignment to me, like this video shows, 6:39 p.m. So let me show you this video first. And this is relevant to what the Fontana Police Department is doing at the same time. Matter of fact, I'm going to show you this video first at 6:39 p.m.
Sun remaining in alignment with me at the same intersection where I documented Officer McMillan. This is Fontana PD group stalking. They're pacing back and forth. This is demonic activity. It's remaining in alignment with me. This is license 1597017. This is the demon, and this is what criminal surveillance is. And this is by law enforcement. That's P.O.C. And this is the exact same intersection where I'm showing at 9 o'clock in the morning, where I'm standing right here, and Officer McMillan is group stalking on a motorcycle with no license plate on it. You have what is the light source that's keeping in alignment with me. And like I stated, at the end of the day, all it does is go to one side of me. In the beginning of the day, it's on this side of me. And this is a general.
And by the way, that's exactly what I'm documenting in Los Angeles, where the sun is rising in alignment to me at 7 in the morning, and it's setting in alignment to me at 6:39 through my bedroom window, which the entity deleted, but I have evidence of it 7 days later at 6:39 p.m. at the same exact time. Just want to point that out to you, the pattern of rising and setting over me.
Reference to what's supposed to be the east, and that's supposed to be the west, while it remains over the same exact environment. This is where I'm at 9 o'clock in the morning, and that's just the other day, because I've been here before 9 o'clock in the morning. But that's showing you what is stalking with the fake sun, and those are the demons of the Fontana Police Department, okay? And they are engaging in pacing, as I'm documenting on my podcast. And they're pacing what is demonic. I'm showing you what's demonic when I'm with regard to what is pacing, and also what are the elements of monitoring with regard to monitoring with communication devices, going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. That's what all these demons are doing, while the entity is flying directly over my head. That's Amazon Prime. That's called relevant positioning, flying right over me, and doing so under what is the fake sun that will never be present. 9 o'clock in the morning, I'm right here. It's right over my head at this street sign. It's still in alignment with me at what is 6:39 p.m. This is P.O.C. and they're all engaging what is the directed light conduct. They being the people of the state, they're acting vicariously. The entity flying over the same exact parking lot where the fake sun is present as I walked out today. That's going toward the prosecution of what is Stephanie, who's engaging in targeting a demon, monitoring, while the entity is not engaging in keeping the fake sun in alignment with the Fontana Lewis Library, which is the case Monday through Thursday. All right? That's not the sun. This is P.O.C. That's demonic conduct. That's Amazon Prime engaging in targeting, flying right over me, where the light source is remaining right in alignment with me. This is P.O.C.
All right, that is the evidence that I'm documenting on the same day, the same time, and an entirely different region. San Bernardino County, the city of Fontana, specifically the intersection of Sierra Avenue and Arrow, where I'm capturing the sun over me early in the morning, and specifically the Fontana Police Department, like, for example, Officer McMillan that I'm documenting at 9 in the morning, and he's, again, the absence of a license plate is relevant. They can state, they can state whatever they want. The entity is aware that they're being documented. It's a means of obstruction of justice to avoid identification. Nonetheless, the fake sun is identifying a demon-possessed gang stalker, irrespective of specific identity. Where the government's engaged in gang stalking, that's state surveillance that is entirely unlawful, and it's public corruption while the government is doing it with the people of the state. So that's the significance of my video documentation that is specifically analyzing gang stalking by the Fontana police at the same time on the same day 2 years earlier. I captured the same probative value as captured in this video that's captured at 6:39 p.m. on April 16, 2024 with regard to same time of year and same time of day analysis.
All right, this third party is going to federal prison. Just want to document, this is all engineered light. This is 12 hours later. This is not sunlight. And this is also documented impunity. Hi, there's no parking here.
Oh, no, I'm waiting for somebody.
For 1806 number 5? Oh, I think I saw you yesterday walking downstairs with him. Yeah, I know who you are. Okay, so you're leaving?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to document this. This is P.O.C. Oh, because there's no parking.
Oh, yeah, I didn't parking.
Okay. Engineer Light fills her vehicle. Engineer Light all over the grounds. She's going to federal prison. The entity sounding sirens. And this is the light source that's here after 6 p.m. There is no sun that's going to be present while the entity is setting the sun at the Fontana Lewis Library. And I also have the entity setting the sun at Arrow and Sierra at 6:32 p.m. in Fontana at that same intersection where I'm there. Officer McMillan at 9 o'clock in the morning. This is the entity maintaining that light source. Let me be clear. Like I was pointing out, I was standing beside the Silverview townhomes this morning, and the light source was directly over my head while I stood at this property. It's literally literally on the opposite side of the same location. That's impossible. It's not even going to be in the sky space.
Let me show you what I'm talking about.
All right, I want to prosecute. I'm going to prosecute, but I want to document this whole.
This is the adjacent property that I'm looking at 6:38 p.m. This is where I'm standing. I'm standing next door to this very parking lot at 6:38 p.m. where the fake sun is over this apartment building that I'm standing adjacent to at 6:38 p.m. This is the fake sun that the Fontana Police Department are gang stalking me under, and you are always supposed to be looking at video evidence proving gang stalking, stalking by strangers, stalking by the state that uses things like helicopters to target one person in a manner that you are ignorant about. And the specific purpose in stealing intellectual property is because the entity knows exactly what is exposed about it while it's stealing my property, stealing my intellectual property, which is also evidence to prosecute demons who are engaged in a pattern of psychological torture and obstruction of justice while they're gang stalking, engaging in surveillance on communication devices and on the venue of the internet, and doing so while they are engaging what is stalking in the path, which is what Fontana police are doing in San Bernardino County, while the fake sun is in alignment to my bedroom window, and video evidence that has been stolen by the gang stalkers themselves, protecting terrorists like the Fontana Police Department who are on video targeting me in that specific environment and are also engaged in what is then stealing that evidence to obstruct justice. Okay, this is the significance of this. This is 10:22 in the morning.
This is Ryder that is acting.
This is adjacent to the same property where I'm standing.
All right,
this
this
is
third
what
party
I'm
is
talking
going to
about.
federal. At Arrow and Sierra at 6:32 p.m. in Fontana at that same intersection where I'm there, Officer McMillan at 9 o'clock in the morning. This is the entity maintaining that light source. Let me be clear, like I was pointing out, I was standing beside the Silverview townhomes this morning and the light source was directly over my head while I stood at this property. It's literally on the opposite side of the same location. That's impossible. It's not even going to be in the sky space. While it's also aiming through closed blinds, engineer light through magnified.
This third party is engaging in the same exact conduct of gang stalking. It's just that she's not wearing a police badge. She's not bearing a police department logo. She is not one that has taken the oath in order to be authorized to engage in what is substantial alteration, augmenting my liberty rights, and with regard to being identified as what is a police officer that is engaging in what is things not in other words, lawfully exercising any authority under the law, hiding behind that mask of law enforcement. She's just not wearing that mask. She's engaging in stalking in the path, light activity and audible activity. She's monitoring me very specifically. She is stalking me. The entity does so through claiming anything. They do the same thing when they're emptying the garbage under the fake sun, when they're coming and picking up their friends under the fake sun, when they are stopping at the red lights that the state controls pursuant to what I'm doing and where I'm at and as I am doing it, while the fake sun remains over me at that intersection in Fontana at the same exact time. That's the pattern of conduct.
Blinds. That's P.O.C. Okay, this is engineer light, just so that you see it. This is engineer light that's appearing on a brick wall. This is, again, multiple shadows right here. You can see the shadows stalking in the path, and a sex offender monitoring inside of the private space. With 18065, who is going to federal prison? All right, he was group stalking, as you saw the light source over my head, and there were.
All right, so this is video evidence that is relevant to, it's equally probative. It's just, I am very precise, and my documentation is so probative regarding what is entirely impossible, even as I have documentation down to the same day and exact same time with regard to analyzing and recognizing how the natural environment, what the natural environment dictates, requires, what you expect of it, and what the entity is doing in a specific environment where it is readily obvious that the entity is stalking. And that entity that is gang stalking and is engaged in surveillance online is engaging in what is stealing my evidence about it. Okay. This is again relevant to what is revealing obstruction of justice, theft of my intellectual property, which is also evidence that the entity, the state of California, the U.S. government is targeting me via the state of California, because this is happening throughout the country. And I am subject to it, exposing it in the state of California. And it is a criminal act of obstruction of justice, which is equally entitling these gang stalking police officers to federal prison. It is May 18, 2025. This is P.O.C. It is currently 3:38 p.m. So you will recall the documentation capturing the fake sun over Woodside Senior Apartments. At this same exact time, And I will remind you about the video evidence that's sitting on the record already. I'm capturing the same exact specific environment, the same exact circumstances, speaking to the same exact criminal system of surveillance that is exposing the same criminal activity by the government, the same government that steals evidence to conceal it, conceal that which they are ceaselessly engaging in as of May 18, 2025. Not only that, this is government conduct, state surveillance, sexual violence, violation of privacy that is unprecedented. The violation of privacy is committed by the entire entity. It's by the municipality. It's by the population that's engaging in what is the inhumane and criminal system of gang stalking, as it's underway, documented with regard to the proof of that specific environment at Woodside Senior Apartments. And what I just documented in images is what you will see uploaded to the Google Drive for May 18, 2025, is that the video documentation, well, the video documentation, yes, but the images are showing the fake sun that's over my head as I'm standing at the front door, in simultaneity of conduct. So this is a heavy-set Latino male that is not coincidentally in the path in order to use a vehicle to drive in the parking lot where the fake sun is remaining over me at that property. That's called stalking with activity. That is speaking to very severely sick conduct that is shared by a population that is monitoring together. This is shared by those of both genders. These are men who are sex offenders. These are women who are sex offenders. They are together engaging in what is the satanic targeting system, and their shared criminal conduct in targeting me is identified and proven through the maintenance of the sun over the same apartment building, like I documented today. You will see the fake sun over the front door at what is Tracy Banks' front door, Ontario, California, Woodside Senior Apartments. Very specific. It's not over the Sophie, Los Angeles Amphitheater in Los Angeles. It's over Woodside Senior Apartments. Specifically, I'm looking out of the front door facing the direction south at what is 11:32 a.m. And you will see the fake sun directly over the top of my head in images. I opened the front door, the metal mesh door, so you can see it clearly in its zenith at 11:32 a.m. 12:123. Over 4 hours later, I am showing you as I open the front door what is the maintenance of the fake sun as I point it up to that fake sun that's over the same building at 3:34 p.m. And you are looking at what is you'll see the next picture where I'm pointing at stalkers. These are gang stalkers who are in that environment maintaining elements of monitoring. That's the significance of movement, presence, activity creation, where they're all sharing engagement in what is invasion of privacy. This is speaking to the devotion, the commitment, the concern of what I'm doing as a woman inside of an apartment, which is where I'm subject to corporate invasion of privacy by those who are stalking in a very psychopathic manner, stalking as strangers and stalking as an entity. The entity is doing so while they're also demon possessed. The entity has been engaged in ongoing harassment, psychological torture, maintaining amplified audible activity inside of the apartment. Remember, the engineered light is remaining inside of the apartment as well. You will see on the exterior of the apartment, there is no vantage point where any of the light that's appearing on the ceilings, as I've documented around the front door at any time of day, the sun is in no position that's ever going to cause this light. This light is still in the same position it was around the front door at 11:30 in the morning. It is the same as I've documented at 6 and 7 o'clock in the morning as well. It's merely presence of engineered light exposing what everybody that you can see outside is doing, stalking. And they're doing so. I want to see, you will also see as I capture the images and I walk from the front door, that fake sun advances as I advance. That's not the conduct of the demons that are stalking in the parking lot. License 5 Paul Wendy Zebra 767. The fake sun moves as I move. It's remaining over the apartment building as I move away from the apartment building. He is shown to be stalking, and he is stalking by residents. This is somebody that is worthy of loss of their federal housing benefit for at this HUD-regulated property, where stalking is a violation of existing federal law, including gang stalking, where the government is criminally surveilling an American citizen in concert with that population, who was proven to be doing so in that specific environment, which is present over the units 49 through 64 who are gang stalking me in concert with these demons who are outside. I'm just documenting the people of the state who are engaging in what is specifically relevant positioning. Relevant positioning with regard to moving the vehicle as I open the front door in the parking lot, standing in the position of being in alignment with the front door as I open the front door and walk on the sidewalk. That's license 5PWZ 767. Being in position in order to stalk in the path as I walk back on the sidewalk, back toward Tracy Banks' apartment, and that fake sun advances west as I walk west in that parking lot and back east toward Tracy Banks' apartment, unit 51, as I walk east back toward her apartment door, for it to remain over the same apartment building. And also for it to advance over me at the same property is documentation of what is the impossible stalking identified through the maintenance of that environment, which is in defiance of nature. And it makes everyone a plain stalker with no legal argument in court when they are prosecuted individually for what they engaged in, what they executed as an entity. All right. The entity is also engaged in federal stalking. So this third party with that license plate that I read, 5 Paul Wendy Zebra 767, is a documented gang stalker. Gang stalking is going to be prosecuted. Not only do I have license plates, but the entire property is being prosecuted. Woodside Senior Apartments, AVANATH is going to produce every gang stalker's their entire property is being prosecuted. There's no secrets, no mystery. The demon, the bald-headed demon from unit number 42, if she moves, if anybody moves, you're not avoiding prosecution. It will be noted that you moved. It is not the intent of the entity to stop gang stalking. That's more so legally analyzed as the entity seeking to obstruct justice, trying to run away from a federal prosecution while your criminal partners, the cooperative entity continuously engages in targeting. So that's not, remember, you're engaging in a criminal activity with an entity. So if one robbery is underway by two partners and one is like, okay, well, I don't want to do it. You've been engaged in robberies before. So because you're stating that I'm going to drive off while you still commit the robbery, you've been engaged in that criminal conspiracy to commit that violent federal offense, and you will still be prosecuted for engaging in what is that federal offense, regardless of the fact that you stated that you're just going to abandon ship. So you're driving to the bank to commit the robbery. You get out of the vehicle with your partner bearing guns and wearing your mask. You go into the bank to commit the robbery. You tell everybody to keep their hands up, and your partner goes in and he's shooting people down. He engages in killing folks, and you didn't sign up for that part, but he's killing folks and he's also getting the money. While this robbery is in commission, in action, then you decide to walk out and abandon ship. You're still going to be prosecuted for felony murder. You're still going to be prosecuted for that federal offense of robbery. When you're moving away and the entity is still engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring, you are going to be prosecuted for it. The entity, it will be noted because the entity has made a series of decisions showing an inability and also a lack of a desire to stop targeting me in furtherance of murder and kidnapping and psychologically torturing. However, one person moving away is not evidence speaking to the pattern of conduct ceasing. And these are the inevitable consequences of a government targeting with the American people. So you're not getting out of a prosecution, especially when the entire apartment complex is targeting. And the evidence of the sun sitting over the apartment building and the evidence of those demons stalking with the government and the population that comes onto the grounds, parking in the reserved parking spots, the government acting through the people of the state who engage in facilitating means of trying to confuse. You ain't confusing nothing. Everybody that's given a parking spot, you could switch it up and change it all you want to. Everybody's identities, everybody's employment contracts, all of the contracts given to group stalkers like RGS and everybody that comes and does the landscaping, everybody that has anything to do with the property is going to be prosecuted. There will be no avoiding or sidestepping. You're not circumventing anything. The entity is aware of the system of public corruption that's underway. And moving away is not evidence speaking to what is being removed from the pattern of conduct. From any sort of excuse from it, it doesn't exist because the targeted individual remains subject to it. And so when you conspire with the government to gang stalk and psychologically torture in order to murder and kidnap, you are engaging in what is the conspiracy from which you are not removing yourself from that conspiracy. It's impossible. The entity is doing it through the people of the state. And one individual from that entity is not tantamount to what is lessening the threat. So it is better that you never engage in it at all as the American people, because the people of the state, the neighborhood, that apartment complex, you're being prosecuted, period. Okay, and as I'm documenting the fake sun advancing over me in the afternoon, the demons are gang stalking, and parking in space number 16 is a vehicle not formally associated with parking spot number 16, license 5 Edward Uncle George 147, a Latino male. with a blue button-down shirt, his cell phone in his shirt pocket on what is the left side of his person. He is wearing dark blue pants with a black belt and black shoes. Gets out of his vehicle, is fully focused on me, the fake sun being over me as I walk toward the spot where he's parking. And my documentation shows the vehicles that are typically parked there: the Lancer, the Buick, the license plate with J Powers, and space number 16 does not ordinarily have this vehicle there. But nonetheless, the entity, they can move, and the entity has done that. I've documented Starbucks gang stalking. They will remove the employees that I document and put in new faces, people that have never been seen there before. And the entity is engaged in all manner of chicanery. It's, first of all, it's speaking to what is knowledge of documentation. Second of all, you're talking about going to federal prison from 2 years to 5 years. That's what you're doing. The entity is engaging with playing games with a federal prosecutor who is not playing at all. The entity is engaged in a pattern of conduct seeking to obstruct justice. You're not avoiding it. You're making it worse for yourself. The entity is showing and educating the public about all the ways of corruption that those that are engaging in surveillance and are entirely corrupt and are obsessively consumed with trying to murder you and psychologically torture and stalk you, the extents to which they will do so. That's what you're showing. And people like that are going to prison. So this demon, license 5EUG147, is parking in space number 16, a vehicle never before associated with that parking spot before. But that, regardless of how that, whether he's a new move-in, whether they switch part, they bought a new car, whoever lives there, whatever, he's accessing apartment number 70. I'm documenting the apartment. He's accessing it with his keys in his hand. He's exercising control over the unit number 70, a third-party gang stalker, monitoring me as well, and engaging in what is federal stalking. I'm documenting that while this demon is, again, engaging in the pattern of conduct. This is absurdly psychotic. The entity is not casually engaging with or ignorantly driving in the parking lot. You're understanding all the ways in which obsessed demons are stalking someone. And you are you are deliberately crossing paths. That's the term of art. That's the jargon for gang stalking. Everybody knows what you demons are doing. So you are specifically calculated in your presence, as you know my movement out of the front door, which is proven by the supernatural evidence prosecuting all of you cockroaches that are in the parking lot, stalking in the path like psychopathic sex offenders. That's what you are. Psychopathic sex offenders. It's pathetic. Okay, and it's blowing the whistle on the city of Ontario, the municipality. So the entity is engaging in this, and these third parties are the ones that I want to show. You will see the fake sun over me advancing as I even go to capture this demon accessing apartment number 70, and you will see the fake sun over apartment 70. You know why? Because I'm standing in front of apartment 70. That is literally the prosecution of the people that stayed in unit number 70 and that entire apartment building, which is units 65 through 84. But you already know that they're gang stalking. That's why the fake sun remains over me inside of units 49 through 64, who are all going to prison. All of those units, they're all going to prison. The entire property, all 144 units are being prosecuted. Okay, so this is the entity that's gang stalking and engaged in ongoing harassment, stalked with amplified audible activity, begging, in other words, for a federal prosecutor. This is a psychopath, a delusional one, an obsessed stalker, in other words, demons, who are begging for more evidence against their inevitable demise. And I am obliged to go ahead and document, because that's what I do. So the entity's engaging in this pattern of conduct, and the fake sun is in the same position that it was at 11:32 in the morning. That is over the same apartment building containing units 48 through 64, where the entity is engaging in the pattern of conduct that is readily identifiable. And it is the direct evidence, the hardcore and insurmountable, irreducible direct evidence, not circumstantial. It is direct evidence, and that hard evidence is based on the supernatural character of it. The inability to impeach that evidence, the inability to do anything other than name call the targeted individual, because there are no facts that will ever address that height of evidence against a people who are targeting through satanic means, such as being under a fake sun, and they're still stalking. All right, the entity is doing so with a level of obsession that is exhibited. The demon with the dogs, she's maintaining obsessive presence in order to make sure that she can cross paths with me. Her dogs are a means of activity. Remember, they create shadows in the engineer light. This is all activity creation in order to make sure that somebody's crossing path with me outside of the building. They're already crossing path when they're inside of their apartment buildings. That's why everybody in units 33 through 64, everything that I state is exactly what I mean for a purpose. They are crossing path obsessively in those two buildings. Since you want to be in that position, you're going to prison. That's intolerable facilitation. The entire property, all 144 are gang stalking as well. They're also in relevant position as well. But these demons in these two buildings, the one that I'm inside of and the adjacent one, units 33 through 48, oh, they're maintaining presence on an ongoing basis. You can imagine in your mind's eye somebody when you're playing basketball and they're guarding you, they're making sure that you never get past them. You always have to get past them. That's what the gang stalkers are doing under the fake sun. Since you want to be that level of a facilitator for the government, you want to go to federal prison. All right, and when you want to engage in with a stalking with amplified noise while you call yourself being a guard on the basketball court when nobody's playing games with you, then you're going to go to a mental asylum as opposed to federal prison. This is the entity that is gang stalking at Woodside Senior Apartments. It's currently 3:53 p.m. This is P.O.C.